could it be? But me, your man, Louie T, here on behalf of Bleacher Report, talking about the Week 3 contest versus the Cincinnati Bengals and reacting to it the day after. Oh, man. How we feeling, Commanders fans? How we feeling after an opportunity to sleep on it and wake up? Are you feeling any better? Because last night was euphoric for Commanders fans. And last night was one of those games that could be, and again, I don't want to overreact, but it is the day after, and I've had a chance to sleep on it. Some have gotten more sleep than others. I didn't get as much sleep, but I feel no different than I felt last night. There's this high, emotional high that we were on last night after this victory, and I still feel that way today. And I said after the game that this win changes everything for the trajectory of this particular season and potentially this organization and franchise moving forward. And it all starts with Jayden Daniels and his performance last night. Now, there's a lot to dissect from the game, a lot of things that we have to talk about that you would rather not talk about because he was so good. The offense was so good in that environment. Our coach was so good last night. There were so many things that were so good, but there were a lot of things that still weren't good enough. And those things are going to put a cap on what this season can be unless they get better. However, I don't think you can really fully grasp what last night meant unless you've been a fan of this team for the better part of a decade plus, to understand what we've gone through, to understand where we've been in terms of the quarterback position. We've been in the quarterback abyss. I always call it the quarterback wilderness. And to see where we are now and to see what this guy has the potential to be in this league, to see the performance put out on the field on a national stage in an environment like that against a desperate 0-2 Cincinnati Bengals team that could not afford to fall to 0-3, against Joe Burrow, one of the best quarterbacks, a top 5 quarterback in this league, to go out and outduel him. And Burrow was fantastic last night. And you knew you were going to get that type of effort from him because of the way our defense plays and the state of our defense. And for our offense, for Jayden Daniels to go out and complete 91.3% of his passes, more touchdowns combined accounted for in the game than incompletions. 3 touchdowns he accounted for, 2 through the air, 1 on the ground, then the 2 incompletions as he went 21 of 23 last night for 254 yards. The 2 touchdowns, the no interceptions, continues to take care of the football, was comfortable all night long. All night long, all night, all night long, all night, all night. But seeing that performance and seeing the excitement that it caused amongst Commanders fans across the nation, what a victory it was last night. And it's just a Week 3 regular season game, but it means so much more if you're a Commanders fan. I said this prior to the game. I said it on a live stream about 6 hours prior to the game. I said, this will be Jayden Daniels' coming out party. Those were my exact words. Now, could I have imagined that it would look the way that it ultimately looked? No, I could not have. When I said coming out party, I thought it was going to be a really good performance, solid, right? You know, 23 of 34 for 206 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 rushing touchdown, 1 passing touchdown, no interceptions, a valiant effort. Commanders lose this game 34-20, but he looked sharp. He looked great in that environment against that team, trying to keep pace with Burrow in that offense. And he made a statement to the rest of the nation, rest of the NFL, hey, I'm the best of this rookie class. He far exceeded my expectations for it last night. I thought it would be a breakout performance. Never could I have imagined in my wildest dreams that it would look like that. The poise, the decision-making, which has been on display the entire season. That's never wavered. It's never waffled. It's never changed. From week one in the preseason versus the Jets to last night, he's looked the same. Week one in the preseason versus the Jets, he audibled on his first third down of his NFL career. In the preseason, he audibles against one-on-one coverage and throws a dime. And it was a precursor of things to come. We could not have known that. And we saw the deep ball at LSU. But even the deep ball at LSU for me at times, He missed Terry McLaurin early in the game. And fans were going crazy. I was in a chat live as the game was going on, and fans were going nuts. Oh, no, I'm starting to worry about Jaden. You know, the play before you missed Ben Sinnott. Didn't see him. And so you missed Terry. You're missing an open receiver. Uh-oh, here we go. Fans were panicking. And then he hits the fourth down to Luke McCaffrey. And then he hits the deep ball to Terry. And he starts to get into this groove. And he's not missing. The guy started the game like 9 of 9 before he had an incompletion. You know, 12 of 12, 13 of 13, something like that, before he had his first incompletion of the game, which is the second week in a row he's done that. Against the Giants last week, I think he started the game 9 of 9, 10 of 10. And a lot of people, hey, it's a college offense, right? It's a college offense. They're not asking him to do too much. Cliff Kingsbury is his offensive coordinator, right? Yeah, it's a nice little college offense. So he went out and did the things that he had been doing. But he did it on a much larger scale, on a much bigger stage with much brighter lights. For him to stay unflappable in that environment, my biggest reason why I didn't think we stood a chance is because, one, the defense is atrocious, and we're going to talk about them tonight, or today rather. And I knew what Burrow was going to have to do for them to win. And I knew getting back one of their premier receivers in T. Higgins was going to free up Jamar Chase to get some more one-on-ones. And Joe wasn't going to miss, because Joe doesn't miss when he gets those opportunities. And we saw that last night. Joe Burrow was spectacular. But with their defense struggling the way that it has been, at times, they also were excellent last week against the Chiefs, were the Bengals, defensively. Didn't really know what I was going to get, and I expected him to go out and play well enough that people would go, hey, that's a really solid Bengals defense, and look what he did to it, right? I could not have imagined that he was going to shred them in the fashion that he ultimately did. There were fans that may have been on the fence about Jaden Daniels, or they like what they've seen, but they weren't necessarily completely sold. Didn't want to take that final step to say, hey, we got ourselves a quarterback. I did the same thing with the kicker. I sat here last week and told you, hey, I don't want to say that we found a kicker, even though he went 7 of 7 and he's going to win NFC Player of the Week, Special Teams Player of the Week, which he did. I wouldn't crown him yet, because I still wanted to see just a little bit more, right? I feel good about Austin Seibert as well. Was perfect on his kicks. And the difference, one of the differences in the game last night was their kicker, who's one of the best in the NFL, missed a kick. Our kicker didn't. The deep ball to Terry, the first one that traveled 50 yards, air yards, the longest pass of his career at any level, high school, college, or the NFL. 50 yards in the air, dropped out of the sky perfectly. And then the game winner to Terry from about 30 yards out, 32 yards out, was one of the most gorgeous things these eyes have ever seen in terms of a pass that was thrown under duress. He got walloped on that throw. He knew he was going to get hit. And I had asked him after week 1 against Tampa to stand in there in the face of pressure, knowing you're going to get your face knocked off and deliver the football, because that's what NFL quarterbacks do. And he took on that challenge last night with the game on the line. After third down conversion, after a fourth down conversion, after overcoming 2nd and 21, he stood in the face of a zero blitz, knowing that that free hitter was going to knock him in his face and off his feet. And he delivered the pass of his life. Yeah, it's week 3. But that game meant so much more. And so here's the biggest day after reaction. You ready for it? Because we're going to get into everything now. Just had to start with Jaden Daniels because a star was born last night. A star was born last night. Now the rest of the league has to deal with it. This season has dramatically changed in terms of expectations. That is what last night's win has done effectively, immediately. You go from, hey, 6 to 8 wins this year, you feel really good about the and look, depending on how the season goes, you may still feel good about 8 and 9 or something like that. But 6 is no longer on the table. That's no longer acceptable from this team. 6 wins is not okay. And this defense is capable of putting you in a position where you only win 6 games, right? 7 games. But after beating the Cincinnati Bengals on the road, having Jaden Daniels play the way that he did in that environment, and granted, you're not going to go up against defenses that are going to allow you to stand back there and have 4 or 5 seconds to throw the football like the Bengals did. Our offensive line was spectacular. We need to talk about that as well. You're not going to have that kind of time most weeks to throw the football, to stand back there, be comfortable, and deliver like he did. But credit the offensive line for that. They got Trey Hendrickson over there. They got Sam Hubbard over there. And those guys were essentially made null and void in this football game. Credit must be given to the offensive line. But when it is all said and done, after the performance that was turned in by the offense, and even little bits and pieces by the defense, the red zone defense wasn't all bad, wasn't great, but they got 2 stops in the red zone, and that was the difference in the game. And a stop on a 2-point conversion, which you could argue we got away with one there. There's no argument. We got away with one there, but hey, it's okay. It's okay. We'll take it. We're not giving it back. Now you're looking at games on the schedule, and I hate to play this game because it's a dangerous game to play. Now you're looking at games on the schedule that you went earlier before this performance, before going on the road and beating a Cincinnati Bengals team that had to have it, that you knew was going to give you their best effort, especially offensively, that you were going to have to outscore them. We knew, and Dan Quinn, credit to Dan Quinn, he knew that we weren't going to go in there and kick 7 field goals and beat the Cincinnati Bengals. These aren't the New York Giants. That's why he went for it on 4th and 2. He could have settled for a 50-yard field goal, and the last guy would have done that. The last guy would have done that. He would have played not to lose instead of playing to win. Dan Quinn went in there knowing, hey, if we're going to out-duel Joe Burrow and that Bengals offense, we're going to have to score 30-plus tonight. Field goals won't do. 4th and 2, you guys go ahead and go for it. 4th and 1, you guys go ahead and go for it. 4th and 4, you guys go ahead and go for it. Because we got to have it. We got to have it. Now you start looking at teams on the schedule and you're looking at them like food. We're tucking in the napkin in our shirt. We've got our fork and our knife, and we're sitting at the dinner table ready to eat. And now you start looking at teams like Arizona, that was a loss before last night. And it still might be, by the way. That's a good Arizona Cardinals football team. But that was, to me, a no-doubt loss. Going on the road against that team with Kyler Murray, we can't tackle. And he may still do all of those things. But now, in my mind, we can still outscore them. We can still outscore them. You go the following week, Cleveland, and you start looking and say, oh, the Browns can't score. And being that our defense is so bad, they'll probably have their best offensive output, but it shouldn't be enough if our offense can do what they did in this game. And that's the scary part. And I said this on the show earlier yesterday when I said Jaden Daniels is going to have his breakout performance. I said winning this game could be a gift and a curse because now the expectations have changed. And I'm guilty as charged. Expectations have changed. The day after reaction is that now this season has no limits. It has no bounds as to what it could be if this defense finds a way to just be solid, to be mediocre, below average, not one of the worst in football. Just be below average. Be 21st, be 22nd in the league, and not 31st, 32nd in the league. Just don't be a complete sieve, and we can win 10 games this season. The Tennessees, the Carolinas, the Chicagos, those are all games where you go, hey, we still need to respect them because we're not good enough. Now you're looking at those games on the schedule and you're saying, hey, if we don't beat Tennessee, if we don't beat Carolina, if we don't beat Chicago, what are we doing? It changes everything. We're looking at this division now all of a sudden, and we're saying, why not us? When I said that last week, people told me I was crazy and they laughed at me. And I said, why not us? I've watched the NFL this season. Why not us? You telling me the Seahawks and the Vikings at 3-0 are the best that this conference has to offer? Why not us? The Cowboys are 1-2. The Giants are 1-2. The Eagles are barely 2-1. Why not us? That's what I said. Why not us? After last night, why not us? In the division, which wasn't a conversation before this season started. We weren't ready for that. And we might not be ready for that still, right? This defense isn't good. And that's going to put a cap on this season, I believe. But this offense hasn't punted in 2 weeks. And it hasn't just not punted. This offense has scored on every possession the last 2 weeks. Okay? So it's not one, it's one thing to just not punt because turnovers happen, turnovers on down, things that you go for it on fourth down, you don't get it. Things happen, okay, throughout the course of an NFL game. Last night, the game between the Commanders and Bengals was the first time since 1940, all right, that there were no punts and no turnovers in an NFL game on either side. But never in this illustrious league's history has there been a team to score on every single drive of its game, excluding kneel downs before the half and at the end of the game, 2 weeks in a row without a single turnover. If you go all the way back to the Bucs game in week 1, the last possession was garbage time. Doesn't matter. 14 straight scoring possessions spanning 3 games, 2 of which were the entire game. You're starting to look around and say, who's going to stop us? And of course, eventually someone will stop us. But right now, till that happens, who's next? We're on some Bill Goldberg type stuff right now. Who's next? The expectations have changed drastically after last night's victory. Fair or unfair, that's where we are with it right now. Now you're looking around this division and saying, wow, we can't win this division. Who's that good in this division that makes you feel like that's not obtainable? Not looking at the Eagles and I'm not quivering or shivering in my boots. The Cowboys can't stop a nosebleed. The Giants aren't good enough on offense. Who's gonna stop us? Why can't we win the division? This is where we are the day after the win versus Cincinnati, right? Let's talk about some other aspects of the game. Let's start with the offensive line because this was a much maligned group going into the season, right? We literally had conversations about they're going to get Jaden Daniels killed. This is not a good enough offensive line. Andrew Wiley stinks. And look, I'm not telling you that Andrew Wiley is great, but we didn't call his name not one single time last night. I forgot he was even at right tackle. That's a hard thing for Andrew Wiley to do, is to make me forget he's on the field. This offensive line was extraordinary last night in pass protection. 1 sack given up. 1. Jaden Daniels had ample time to throw the football. The Bengals were scared to pressure him because they knew he could get out of there with his legs. And when they did try to come after him, he just got out of there. The last time they came with the zero blitz, he knew he was going to get zero blitz. He knew he was going to get that pressure, and he was prepared for it. And he's hunkered down and delivered the best throw you could argue you've seen a quarterback make this season. And that's on the real side. That ain't on the fake side. That ain't hyperbole, and that's not me being a fan of this team and being biased. Go find a throw from a rookie quarterback on the road, no less, in the face of pressure with the game on the line, because if you don't score a touchdown there, there's no doubt in my mind the Bengals are going to go down the field. If you got to settle for a field goal, and I don't have any doubts that Austin Seibert was going to make that kick, you're up 8 points. There's no doubt in my mind Joe Burrow's going down the field scoring a touchdown, and this time they're probably going to get the 2-point conversion, and now we're going to overtime if there's not enough time on the clock for Jaden to take us back down the field and get us in the field goal range. And if we go to overtime, we're going to lose the game. You just know that all the air is sucked out of your sidelines by blowing that lead, and now they've got all the momentum. You already know what the outcome of this game is probably going to be. To not allow that to even be on the table, that's big time. But it starts up front with the offensive line. They were spectacular in this game. And I talked about this before the season started. I said, you guys are focusing too much in on these individuals instead of them being a collective unit and understanding that it's not just the offensive line. It's Cliff Kingsbury's play calling. It's Jaden Daniels' legs. It's the run game. It's the quick game. These are all factors that are going to take pressure off of this offensive line. And you saw it in all of its splendor. Its full splendor last night. It came together and they looked like a formidable group. Credit must be given to this offensive line. If you're going to start spreading the credit, make sure you give some to that offensive line. Because as soon as they do something wrong, you'll be the first to jump on their back and blame them. So give them credit when they have themselves a ball game like they did last night. The skill guys. Austin Eckler suffered a concussion last night. That sucks. That's a big blow to this football team. And let me just say this. Jaden Daniels is the offensive rookie of the year if this continues. I said this last week, though. Right? This is not new news to anybody that's been paying attention to this program. I said last week, after week 2, he's going to win offensive rookie of the year in a landslide. Last night was another one of those games that he puts on the resume that says, hey, no one's even close. I don't know who's in second right now. Maybe one of the receivers, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, one of those guys probably in second place, but they're a distant second place. There's nobody even close. And he keeps this up, he'll run away with this thing. You can give him the award by week 12, right? But you look at the skill guys. This is another reason that you're looking at Jaden Daniels a lot differently, because a quarterback that's elite in this league, he lifts up the play of those around him. We were told, and a lot of this was our own fans saying that enough wasn't done at the skill positions. They don't have enough receivers, right? The tight ends position group, it's better than it's been, but it's still not earth-shattering. And the running back position, we really did like that position. But he doesn't have enough targets to get the football to, which is why people were really lusting over Brandon Ayuk. And they're looking at Devontae Adams being disgruntled and say, hey, go get this guy or go get that guy. He's lifting the play and elevating the play of others. Luke McCaffrey was huge last night. 30-yard catch and run on 4th and 2. Obviously, Terry McLaurin, we're going to go there here in a second, with 4 catches for 100 yards and the big catch in the end zone, but the big 55-yarder to really give the offensive passing game life in this game. Noah Brown has been a great addition. Zach Ertz continues to be a steadying force on this offense and made big plays last night in the game with his 5 catches. De'Ami Brown had a couple of nice wide receiver screens when we got out of whack. When we got behind the sticks, he got us back into striking distance with his 2 wide receiver screens that he was able to catch and make something happen with. So everybody's contributing. Austin Eckler was fantastic. Had the 27-yard run, whatever it was, for the touchdown. Had the kickoff return for 62 yards that set up shop in the beginning of the third quarter to kick off the second half. He continues to just be excellent. I mean, the first 3 plays of the game were all Austin Eckler, essentially, and they were all big plays to really give us confidence after the Bengals just went down the field and scored a touchdown and made it look staple button easy, right? So there's enough around him, but it's elevated by Jaden Daniels and his play. So you got to give them credit too. But that's where a lot of the credit stops, because the defense, that's a whole nother can of worms, right? That's a whole nother issue. And the lack of pressure is disheartening. What I think I've been the most disappointed with over the last 2 weeks in particular, because I wasn't feeling this way after week 1, is the run defense. We can't stop anybody from running up the teeth of our defense, and it is disturbing to watch. And so the chatter and the noise about Allen and Payne get louder and louder and louder as the weeks pass, and they do nothing and nothing and nothing. And I got to go back and watch the tape, but I can tell you this right now. I don't think there were as many double teams this week as there were last week, and there still was no production. There still was no impact on the game. And because of that, there's going to be chatter, and it's going to get louder and louder and louder. And I think if this continues, someone's getting traded at the trade deadline, and I think it's Jonathan Allen. And he still holds value around the league. And because he still has 1 year left on his deal, this is the perfect time to move him if you're going to move him. And of the 2 Bama Wall defensive tackles, he's to me the most expendable. He's the one that impacts the game the least, if you ask me. Daron Payne still has value, and I still think he can be a really good player for us. And has been at times for this season. I think he's done some really good things. But I didn't feel his impact last night. I didn't feel it like I had. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to go back and watch and go, you know what, Daron wasn't that bad. But Jonathan didn't do anything. And so you're disappointed there. I love Frankie Louvu. I love Bobby Wagner. Wagner led the team in tackles last night. Frankie Louvu leads the team in tackles overall, and it was another strong night for Frankie Louvu, one of the few guys that showed a pulse. The best game from Jeremy Chin was last night. Had the hit on Mike Gesicki on the sideline. Good coverage by Percival Butler. That was Percy on that particular play. And so Chin had the break up on the 2-point conversion. Again, we know he got there early, but still, they didn't call it. If they don't throw the flag, it's not an infraction. So he had that, and he had a tackle for loss on a check down to the running back. So it was by far and away the best game for Jeremy Chin. But there was a lot of bad defensively. We still aren't tackling well. The run game the run defense is just awful right now. We can't play man-to-man coverage against anybody. If you can't get to the quarterback, then you feel the need to blitz. You can't blitz because if you blitz, now you're leaving your corners on an island, and we can't do it. They put the rookie on the island against Jamar Chase. As soon as Burrow saw it, he went after him. 45-yard touchdown, right? They singled up Benjamin St. Juste with Chase, and the minute he saw it, touchdown over the top, right? So you can't play man-to-man coverage, right? You try to play at the end, and it doesn't matter who the corner is, right? Benjamin St. Juste beat for a touchdown. Noah Igbenogany, pass interference in the end zone. Ball at the 1, right? Mike Sainristil still beat for a touchdown, 45 yards. So you can't play man coverage with anybody. So can't blitz because now you got to play man coverage, or you got to play some form of off coverage that's going to allow the receiver to have plenty of space to operate, and we can't tackle, so you don't want to do that. So you can't blitz. But if you don't blitz, you don't get pressure. And a lot of times, even when we do blitz, we still don't get pressure. You can't stop the run. So what can you do on defense? And I don't think this problem can be fixed until the offseason. You're kind of stuck with what you have. Guys just have to get better within the scheme, or this is what it is the rest of the season. Now, you're not going to see Joe Burrow at quarterback every week, and you're not going to see Jamar Chase at receiver every week. But we've already proven that it could be Daniel Jones and Malik Neighbors, and it's still the same result. You can't stop them, right? It could be Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans, and you still can't stop them. It doesn't have to be a top 5 quarterback and a top 5 receiver for you to get torched. Anybody can give you work. And this is the struggle, is that offensively, you got to go into every game thinking, we can't punt or we'll probably lose. That's no way to live. And that's where we are right now. And that's why, as excited as I am for this win and how good the offense looks, you still got to put a cap on your expectations because you're not going to score 38 every week. Trust me. You're not going to keep going through entire games and scoring on every possession. If we don't score on one possession last night, we lose. All it would have taken was one possession. Even the field goal mattered last night. You had to have that. Understand that had they went one possession and Zach Ertz fumbled, and if Nick Allegretti isn't there, and that's one of the biggest plays last night that nobody's talking about, if he's not hustling and doesn't fall on that ball and the Bengals somehow recover, we are going to lose this game because of one possession that we didn't score. We scored on 6 possessions last night. 6 possessions we had where we were looking to score, minus the kneel down before the half and the kneel down at the end of the game in victory formation. We had 6 real possessions, true possessions. We scored on all 6 of them, 5 touchdowns and a field goal. If it's 4 touchdowns, we lose this game. If it's just 5 touchdowns and no field goal, we lose this game. It had to be 6 scores. That's the position that this defense is going to put us in week and week out. Now, again, you're not going to play against Will Levis isn't scoring 33 points. At least I don't hope, right? At least I hope he's not scoring. Deshaun Watson shouldn't score 33 points with the way that offense looks right now. But again, we're turning mediocre quarterbacks into superstars overnight with this defense. So I can't tell you that Deshaun Watson, remember the first year he got back from suspension with the Browns 2 years ago? He hadn't looked good against anybody in the league. He had struggled, hadn't won a game yet, had looked awful. Then we showed up with a playoff spot on the line. Our head coach at the time didn't know we could be eliminated. And we let Deshaun Watson look like Deshaun Watson for the first time since coming back from suspension. Nobody else in the league let him look like that. He had himself a day against us. It was embarrassing. Who's to say that doesn't happen again? With the way this defense is playing, nothing is off the table or out of bounds. But because of how well we're playing on offense, there's still that chance that, hey, this could be that week that we do score 35, that we do score 38. And most NFL teams aren't scoring 38 points. They just aren't. I don't care how much defensive woes you have. They're not going to score on every single possession. Most NFL teams aren't doing that. So we'll see what happens. Credit needs to be given to some of the staff. I thought Dan Quinn called one whale of a ball game. And although we had issues lining up and we had to burn all of our second half timeouts, thank God we didn't need them because we burnt through those things, like they were first half timeouts. Oh, they'll give us 3 more, right? No, it's the second half. You don't get any more of these. You need to save these, especially in a close ball game. But we still have issues getting guys lined up. But I love the usage of those timeouts because those were important plays. We got to have it. Make sure you're right. The most disconcerting thing was we came out of the timeout and we still didn't have the right personnel on the field and we had to rush to the line of scrimmage, but Jaden made it all right. Dan Quinn was phenomenal. From the outset, from the jump, he set the tone by going for it on 4th and 2. This is the type of night it's going to be right here. So from that point on, in my mind, I was like, oh, yeah, he's ready to roll the dice. The dice are hot. He's ready to roll them. Let's go get them, fellas. Let's go. Y'all know what it is. We can't punt. We have to score. Let's do it. He set the tone. Cliff Kingsbury in his bag. 3rd week in a row, he's been fantastic. It's just a college offense, though. They don't ask Jaden to do much. Who's the offensive coordinator? Cliff Kingsbury, right? Yeah, it's a nice little college offense. Well, I really enjoy watching this nice little college offense. This is fun. He was spectacular yet again last night. He kept the Bengals off balance the entire night. They didn't know if we were coming, going. They didn't know if we were going left, right, up the field, short, intermediate, deep. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to cover. They couldn't. But it's just a college offense. And so I think he deserves a lot of credit too. So does this staff for having this team prepared. A week after all of those penalties and really 2 weeks of being penalized ridiculously, I think we had 2 penalties and they both came on that final offensive possession and we overcame both of them. We had 3 penalties, excuse me. We had the pass interference on the final defensive possession as well. So gotta give credit where credit is due. They cleaned up the penalties. So a very prepared team on a big stage against a team that was desperate. And then I got to talk about Terry McLaurin, and then we can get out of here. Because there were fans within the fan base. And again, a very small, minute portion of this fan base, okay? They were the minority, but they're loud, right? They're not. It's the same thing with the Kirk Cousins situation when he was here. Most fans wanted Kirk Cousins to stay in Washington, but they were quiet. It was the ones that didn't want him here that were the loudest. They were in the minority, but they were the loudest. And a lot of these fans, Terry McLaurin isn't a real number 1 wide receiver. We need to trade Terry. He's not that good. Oh, yeah? Okay. All right. Sure, you're right. Big-time players make big-time plays in big-time situations or in big-time games. That is the quote of one Santana Moss. Terry McLaurin made big-time plays in a big-time game last night because he's a big-time player. He's that guy. There were questions about his foot speed. Maybe he's lost a step. Didn't look like it to me last night. Ran right by a corner twice in off coverage. The first one was really impressive because Cam Taylor-Britt was in off coverage and he ran past him like he was standing still and beat the safety too. They were shading to his side, ran past both the corner and the safety and tracked the football. The second one was just a nasty double move. Went to the staff, went to Cliff Kingsbury and said, hey, trust me on this 3rd down. Went to Jaden Daniels and said, give me a shot on this 3rd down. And they did, and he delivered. I will not stand for any Terry McLaurin slander. I won't. He's gone through too much and done too much with too little for too long. If there's one guy that deserves to be here when this turns around because we finally got a quarterback, it's Terry McLaurin. And there were people talking about, we got to give him the football. We got to get him the football. I said, relax, it's coming. They're going to get him the football. And they got him the ball in a major way last night. 400. That'll perk up your average real quick. That's 25 a pop for you. Some of you mathematically challenged at home. 4 quarters equals $1. 4 catches for 100. And the game-winning touchdown. He's that dude. He's the leader of that receiving room and one of the leaders of this team. And he showed it last night. And he's not to be questioned. There are not many guys that get a pass on this football team. Terry McLaurin is one of them. But he doesn't get a pass. He's earned that respect. He's built up the equity to be able to say, hey, I should get the football. And he could be a diva receiver. He could be one of these guys snapping off and getting upset because he's not getting enough opportunities, but he doesn't because he's a professional. How many times have you heard, Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury and Jaden Daniels describe Terry as a professional? He did it again last night. He did it again. He's that guy. And as long as you got 17, you got a chance. Now that you got 5, you really got a shot. Last night changed a lot. For good or bad, for better or for worse, it changed everything. Now, we went from a season with limited to no expectations to, hey, why not us? Not just in the conference as a sneaky 7th-seeded wild card team that finds a way to backdoor their way into the playoffs. Now, I ain't talking about that. Now I got my sights set on something much bigger. I want the NFC East division. Now we talking crazy. But you know what? I like it like that. I like it like that. I like it like that. We're 2-1. We're tied for first. And yes, it's only 3 weeks. And yes, it's a small sample size. We've got the easiest schedule in the division. You start winning division games, something we didn't do last year. We were 0-6 in the division. Well, we're already 1-0. Dallas doesn't look good right now at all. Doesn't mean they won't get better. They're still a team that can score points, but their defense is awful. Granted, they've seen 2 really good offenses in the Saints and the Ravens the last 2 weeks. But they played that type of schedule. Have you seen the Cowboys' schedule? Doesn't get any easier from here on out, right? They got the Giants, and then they go on this whale of a stretch where they're playing good team after good team after good team after good team. The Texans and the Steelers and those types of teams. Well, good luck. You're going to need it. Not my problem. Nobody's worried about the Giants. Can't win in this division with Daniel Jones as your quarterback. And then there's the Eagles. And to me, they're still the best team in this division. But I told you guys this before. I'm going to say it again, and then we'll get out of here. The gap between the best of the division and the rest of the division has shrunk considerably. There was a point in time 2 years ago, 3 years ago, last year even, where the elites of this division, the haves of this division couldn't see the have-nots. We were looking through our front windshield and we couldn't see the Cowboys or the Eagles. They were gone, long gone, miles away, miles and miles away. Didn't have to worry about checking their rear view. Those two were riding next to one another and they didn't have to look backwards, just sideways. Now, the Eagles, they're looking sideways, but they don't see the Cowboys. They see us. But they still got to look behind them, and we might not be side by side with them all season long. I don't expect to be. But if they slip up, we might be right there to take advantage of Jalen Hurts throwing red zone interceptions. They'll get better when they get A.J. Brown back. Devontae Smith got injured last game with a concussion. He'll be back, and they'll be whole again on offense, and they'll be dangerous. I'm not buying their defense being fixed after going to New Orleans. That was a very gritty performance. Big win for them. I still think you can move the football on their defense. Why not us? I've given you reasons why not the defense, right? We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, I digress. You guys get out of here. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next week. Hopefully, we'll be having a similar conversation as we go on the road to Arizona and try to. I said we needed to get one out of these 2 road games. Well, we got one. Now I'm being greedy. We're playing with house money now at this point. Why not? Why not be greedy? Let's go to Arizona, man. We're playing with house money. Dice are still hot. Why not? That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on behalf of Bleacher Report, breaking down the Commanders' win over the Bengals as we react the day after. The day after is dangerous, but I did wake up this morning feeling rather dangerous. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.